found this sign at Dollar Tree in the summertime, and I'm going to use some sandstone colored paint to paint over the image. And I didn't need complete coverage, just enough to cover up the image so it doesn't show through my scrapbook paper. Once I decided where the scrapbook paper was going to go, I scored the edge where I needed to cut it. But instead of cutting it, I'm going to use the water method. I have a water pen, and this takes the place of a paintbrush and water. I get these from Amazon, and I'll put a link up top. I went around 3 of the edges and tore it. And the reason I love doing this is the beautiful edge that it leaves after you tear it. I put it on my board to size up where the second piece needed to go because I didn't have quite enough, but y'all know I don't mind patching things up. I did the same thing with my water pen. I went around my scored edge and then tore it. And to adhere these to my board, I'm going to use Mod Podge. I put a nice layer on, smoothed it out, nice and even, and then laid my paper on top, smooth that out with my hands. And then for the second piece, I'm just going to layer it on top. It's not going to show, so it really doesn't matter. Once I get that done, I sealed the whole thing in with a really generous amount of Mod Podge. Then I dried that completely. Next, I took some ribbon. I got this at Michael's, and I used some hot glue to cover up that spot that I layered. I just wrapped it around the back and glued it down. Next, I took my Distress Oxide pad and really went around the edges very generously so it would show up all those tears that I love so much. It also is going to show up the wood that comes through as well. I always dry my ink so it doesn't smudge in places that I don't want it to smudge. I put this piece of silicone mat on my project so I didn't mess it up. This is carbon paper. I don't have good handwriting, so I printed this little saying out on my computer, and I have the ink side down on that carbon paper, and I'm just going to write with my embossing tool right over top of the words. And that's why I put that mat down, because sometimes it gets in places you don't want it to, which it did here. But I wasn't worried, because once I went over my words again to make them permanent, I wiped it off with a wet wipe, and it made it nice and clean. These little skates came from Hobby Lobby. I cut off the hanger from one of them before gluing it down. And then for the second one, I'm going to take the hanger and go through the blade of the first one. Once I got it pulled through, I cut it off and glued it together right in place right here. And then I glued my skate down. Then I took some jute to make my hanger, and I just put it in the back with some hot glue before putting some buttons on the front. Then I took some rusty things and tied them up to some pieces of jute, and then tied it up at the top with a bow. And this is going to take the place of making a bow. I just thought this would be so different and so cute. And I love how vintage this looks. I love it. Finally, I just put a smaller snowflake in the middle of my bow, and that's it. And I think this turned out so cute, even with that mishap with the ink. That's why I always seal in my projects, so you can always clean them up. Thanks for watching. I hope you love this. Have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to water the vine. I'll see you next time.